Move the mouse to the place you want to go. When the arrow changes, click to go there. If the arrow doesn't change, pick another place to go. To exit the whale watch tower at any time, hold down the Alt key and press F4. Click on the cover of the Whale Watch Journal to open it and begin reading. Roll the pointer around the page. Help balloons will tell you what each object does. Click on the balloon to have the text read out loud to you. To continue reading, click on the Continue Reading button. The Still Camera button changes the picture. A Video Camera button plays movies. Click on the drawings and see what happens. Click on this button when you want to have the story read to you. The Activity Locator has puzzles for you to solve. Each page is different. Chapter 1. Family Matters. Several years had passed since Willy had been freed from his sea aquarium prison by a boy named Jesse. After many years in captivity, Willy had finally rejoined his family, J-Pod. Willy's mother, Catspaw, kept close watch over him as he played with his younger brother and sister, Little Spot and Luna. The only reminder of his former life was the bent dorsal fin that cut through the cool water above him. Close. Try again. That's right! Randolph, Willy's former caretaker at the aquarium, had tracked J-Pod all the way up the coast. Standing at the helm of his boat, the Natselane, he listened intently as orca chatter sounded through a loudspeaker. Down below, Nadine, Randolph's orca spotter, adjusted knobs on the recording equipment used to track the orcas.
Willy.
Randolph smiled. Willy had made it home. During the past few years, Jesse had often wondered about his friend Willy. He hoped that Willy had joined his family back in the ocean where he belonged. For his part, Jesse had finally begun to accept Glenn and Annie Greenwood as his adopted family. But even their closeness wouldn't make the pain go away when he learned of his mother's death. Jesse was in shock when he learned that his mother had left behind another son, Jesse's half-brother Elvis, whom he had never known about. Waves of hurt and anger shot through Jesse when he learned that Elvis would be coming to live with the Greenwoods as well. "I don't want a brother," Jesse screamed as he ran out of the house. But it was no use. Elvis was on his way. Chapter 2. Breaking the Ice. Jesse stole glances at his half-brother seated next to him as the car snaked along the coast highway. They had met only the night before, and now he was forced to spend his vacation with the 8-year-old bragging Elvis. Jesse had been looking forward to this camping trip for nearly a month, but things had changed. The trip was ruined for sure. Try another one. Close. Try again. Way to go! It was a beautiful ride over to San Juan Harbor. Jesse and Elvis looked out over the ferry's transom, watching the wake recede behind them. Just then, a black and white whale, an orca, surfaced and began body surfing across the ferry's waves. Elvis was amazed. He had never seen anything like it. Jesse just smiled, remembering the good old days with Willy. The Greenwoods campsite sat on a hill overlooking the sea. Randolph drove up as they unpacked. He had come to welcome them and to take Jesse whale spotting. As they drove to the dock, Randolph handed Jesse a present, a carved orca pendant from his village. He told Jesse, "My people believe that wearing this around your neck keeps the orca close to your soul." When they arrived at the Natsalane, Jesse hadn't expected to see anyone else, let alone a pretty girl his own age. Jesse couldn't help but stare as Nadine moved skillfully around the deck preparing for the trip. Randolph cast a protective glance at his goddaughter Nadine, then back at the ogling Jesse. Randolph tried to ignore Jesse's curiosity as they went below. "You did it!" Randolph played Jesse the recording of J-Pod he had made earlier. Jesse's eyes lit up. He immediately recognized the familiar voice. "That's Willy!" he cried. Back on deck, Jesse and Nadine scanned the water for any signs of J-Pod. "There!" Randolph shouted, pointing to water spouts and dorsals 100 yards away. It was J-Pod, Willy's family. Chapter 3. Meeting Willy. Jesse arrived back in camp like a kid just back from a candy store. "Glenn!" he called. "I saw Willy. It was from 1,000,000 miles away, and just for a second, but it was so cool." Glenn smiled. He knew how much Willy had meant to him. "Do you think he misses me?" Jesse asked quietly. "I'm sure he does, Jess," Glenn replied. When it was time for bed, Jesse couldn't believe he had to share his tent with Elvis. Elvis had done nothing to help set up camp, and now he was complaining. "I got a bad back bungee jumping," Elvis said. "I can't sleep on the ground." Jesse was tired of Elvis already. "I'll tell you what," Jesse replied. "You just stay on your side of the tent, and I'll stay on mine." Later that night, Jesse stormed out of the tent and down to the dock. Elvis was getting on his nerves, and he needed some time alone. Jesse's harmonica playing echoed across the calm waters when, by accident, Jesse dropped the harmonica into the dark water. Jesse peered over the edge of the dock when suddenly Willy burst out of the water right in front of him. "Way to go!" Not far away, the Liberian oil tanker Dakar churned its way up the dark coastline. Captain Nilsson was worried. They had lost time in some bad weather, and more was on the way. He knew that his job, as well as his crew's jobs, would be history if this shipment was late. Ignoring the Coast Guard's warnings, Captain Nilsson ordered the Dakar's speed increased to 15 knots. Jesse rose with the sun the next morning. Meeting Willy the night before had put him in a great mood. He was anxious to head out with Randolph and Nadine to search for J-Pod, even if it meant taking Elvis with him. Elvis had to run to keep up with Jesse. "Hurry up!" Jesse called back to him, annoyed. "Slow down!" Elvis cried, but it was no use. Chapter 4. Willy Plays Matchmaker. When Jesse and Elvis arrived at the Natsilani, there was bad news. "Engine trouble," Randolph informed them. "It's gonna be a few hours." Jesse frowned, disappointed. Just then, Nadine appeared, bag in hand, and brushed by Jesse on her way up the dock. With a mischievous grin on his face, Jesse sent Elvis back to camp and set out after Nadine. Jesse followed Nadine to a quiet, secluded cove and hid behind a rock to spy on her. He didn't notice that Elvis had followed him and was spying on both him and Nadine. Just then, there was a sound in the water. Jesse looked just in time to see Willy's familiar bent dorsal fin submerge. In his excitement, Jesse slipped and fell into the water, exposing his hiding place to Nadine. That's right. Do you always follow people? Nadine asked, annoyed. Not really, Jesse replied sheepishly. Nadine helped him out of the water. What is this place? He asked. Rubbing Rocks Beach, she replied. The orcas come here to rub themselves on the smooth rocks on the bottom of the cove. From afar, Elvis watched in disbelief. Jesse was consorting with the enemy, a girl. Look, Jesse cried, pointing to an orca that had surfaced close to shore. Watch this, he said to Nadine. Jesse pulled out his harmonica and began to play. To Nadine's amazement, Willy surfaced right in front of them. Both Nadine and Willy were nervous as Jesse introduced them. Before long, Jesse and Willy were in the water together, just like old times. Nadine was definitely impressed. Later that afternoon, back at the campsite, Jesse and Nadine scanned the seas for signs of J-Pod. As they watched, the Dakar appeared and cut across the horizon, marring the otherwise beautiful scene. I hate oil tankers, Nadine said. They come through here like it's their own private highway. They watched in silence as the tanker left a roiling wake in its path. Chapter 5. Disaster at Sea. Nadine and Jesse were waiting for Willy, Little Spot, and Luna when they arrived at Rubbing Rocks Beach early the next morning. Wearing dive masks and flippers, Nadine and Jesse took to the water. Soon the orcas headed back out to sea, leaving Nadine and Jesse alone on the beach, hand in hand. The sun felt warm on their skin as they shared their first nervous kiss. That's it! That evening, Jesse and Elvis lay awake, staring at the ceiling of their tent. Jesse needed to ask Elvis about their mother, but he wasn't sure how to begin. Jesse was starting to realize that while he and Elvis didn't have much in common, they did share one very important bond, their mother. Late that night, dark clouds shrouded the coastline as the Dakar began its dash past Lawson Reef, the most dangerous part of its journey north. Suddenly, there was an explosion on board. "What's the problem down there, engine room?" Captain Nilsson shouted into the intercom. The engines were dead. The captain's mayday call came too late. The rocks had done their damage. Before running aground, the Dakar's deep hull separated Willy, Luna, and Little Spot from their mother Catspaw. Crude oil, thick and black, oozed out of the ruptured tanker and was closing in on them quickly. Hearing her mother's cry, Luna panicked and blindly swam forward, straight into the looming oil. At first, Jesse didn't know what had awakened him. He sat up alert, waiting for whatever it was to happen again. Then he heard it, a whale call echoing through the trees. Quietly, he made his way down to the water, with Elvis following close behind as usual. "Look, Elvis, it's Luna. She's beached." There, in 2 feet of water, Luna lay gasping, covered with oil. "That's right." "Go get help, Elvis," Jesse cried. "Tell Annie and Glenn to call Randolph. Go!" Glenn and Annie had a hard time believing Elvis's tall-sounding tale about a grounded oil tanker and a beached whale. "Why should I believe you?" Glenn asked, annoyed. Just then, Luna's plaintive wail filled the air. "I'll call Randolph," Glenn said, regarding Elvis with a bit more respect. Chapter 6. The Trouble with Willy. Things began to happen very quickly. Randolph arrived and gave Luna a quick examination. Next, they had to get her back into the water. Once done, Willy immediately began circling Luna protectively. Television and newspaper reporters gathered at the beach. Dr. Kate Haley, the top whale veterinarian in the area, was called in to nurse Luna back to health. Meanwhile, the Benbrook Oil Company sent John Milner out to the cove where Luna had beached. Because the Dakar was Benbrook's vessel, it was Milner's job to oversee the emergency cleanup and to offer his company's assistance in helping to save the orcas. On the way to the cove, he watched news reports in the back of the company van. "What a nightmare," he groaned. Milner arrived just as Dr. Haley was attempting to give Luna an injection. "Willy doesn't like doctors, Randolph," Jesse said, shaking his head. "I don't know how she's going to get near Luna with that needle." Dr. Haley's assistant tried to maneuver their small boat near Luna, but Willy would not allow it. Whatever trust Willy had left for humans was fast running out. "You did it!" Milner, Dr. Haley, and Randolph gathered to discuss the situation. "I just want to save these whales, Dr. Haley," Milner said. "Whatever it takes." Dr. Haley didn't appreciate his condescending tone. "You can't just buy a killer whale's trust, Mr. Milner," she countered. Randolph eyed Milner with mistrust. "If you mean what you say, Mr. Milner," Randolph said, "I may be able to help you." Randolph and Dr. Haley took Milner to meet Jesse. They knew that if there was anyone who could gain Willy's trust, it was Jesse. "Willy doesn't trust you," Jesse said, looking at Milner. It was clear that Jesse didn't trust him either. "If I help you, you have to promise that you'll do all you can to get Willy, Little Spot, and Luna back to their mom." Milner agreed and shook on the deal. "It's a deal." Chapter 7. Trust Regained. The effort to save Luna had called on everyone to pitch in and help. Everyone, that is, except for Elvis. Annie found him sitting alone, pretending to read a magazine. Annie cheered him up by making a spit-shake promise that he would be able to help save the whales too. Together, they headed down to the cove to wish Jesse and Dr. Haley good luck. Jesse's job was to lure Willy to him by playing his harmonica. Once Willy was distracted, Jesse would give the signal to Dr. Haley to approach Luna. They all agreed the first part was the hardest. At first, Willy was stubborn, but Jesse's gift of a fresh salmon placated him long enough for Dr. Haley to do her work. Only time would tell if Luna's condition would improve. "Sorry, try again." "That's right." Back on shore, Randolph studied the map that tracked the spreading oil spill. "What's the matter?" Jesse asked. "The oil is coming this way fast," Randolph said, pointing to the map. If Luna's health didn't improve quickly, all their efforts would be in vain. The oil would trap Luna, Willy, and Little Spot inside the cove where they would surely die. "They won't leave until Luna is better," Randolph told them. That evening, Nadine and Jesse watched the sun go down over the cove. Nadine couldn't hold back her tears. Her favorite place on earth had been destroyed. The birds, the seals, the fish, everything that made the cove perfect, had been ruined in one day. Jesse wiped a tear from her cheek. He knew she was right, but with luck, they could still save Willy and his family. Jesse returned to camp that night to find Elvis playing with his whale necklace. At first, Jesse was irritated, seeing his gift from Randolph in Elvis's hands.
Not told it to me.
This time, however, Jesse decided not to give Elvis a hard time. He was learning that his little brother, however annoying he may be at times, was actually an okay kid. Chapter 8. Medicine Man. Randolph and Nadine rushed into the camp the next morning with bad news. Luna had beached herself again. Dr. Haley's medicine wasn't working. Randolph sent the others down to help Luna while he took Jesse out to collect plants for an alternative remedy. "There are other medicines besides the one Dr. Haley uses," Randolph told Jesse. "We must try them all to save Luna." You did it! My grandmother taught me how to call on Mother Nature to heal the sick, Randolph said to Jesse. Now I'll teach you. Together they collected the plants they would need to help Luna. Meanwhile, Annie and Glenn had managed to get Luna back into the water. Suddenly, Annie realized she had broken her promise to Elvis. She hadn't let him help Luna, and now he had disappeared. Annie and Glenn headed back to the campground, only to discover that Elvis and all of his things were gone. They quickly drove to town, hoping that someone had seen him or knew where he was. Meanwhile, Elvis had tried to leave the island, but just missed the last ferry. He was forced to find a place to stay until the next ferry left in the morning. That night, Jesse and Randolph went down to the cove. A full moon illuminated Willy, Little Spot, and Luna as they surfaced silently in front of the humans. Randolph rubbed Luna's tongue with the medicine he had prepared. They would know by morning if she would recover. Not far away, Elvis lay crying in the cockpit of a dry-docked sailboat, wishing he was back with Jesse, Annie, and Glenn. Chapter 9. Elvis to the Rescue. As the sun rose over the water, Dr. Haley and Randolph stood on the dock, smiling. Luna swam strongly around the cove with her two brothers. She was doing much better. Meanwhile, Elvis was having breakfast at the harbor coffee shop before boarding the ferry. Suddenly, a conversation at the next table caught his attention. It was Milner. He was planning to trap and sell the orcas. Sold! Elvis abandoned his plans to run away and returned to the cove. Workers had already begun sealing off the cove with floating booms that kept the oil from floating in while steel nets kept the whales from getting out. Jesse and Nadine were furious that Dr. Haley had agreed to let Milner remove the orcas from the ocean. Quickly, Elvis told Jesse and Nadine about Milner's scheme. You did it! Many people looked on as Jesse, Elvis, and Nadine confronted Milner about his dirty dealings. It was common knowledge that Benbrook was paying to fly the whales to a marine institute for rehabilitation. However, no one knew that Milner planned to sell the orcas to the institute where they would be kept on permanent display. Get these kids out of here, Milner hissed, turning his back on the crowd. Both Jesse and Willy knew it was time to take matters into their own hands. By then, workmen had succeeded in hoisting Little Spot out of the water. Sensing the danger Little Spot was in, Willy moved instinctively to free his sibling. The steel nets and booms sealing off the cove were still the biggest obstacles between the orcas and the open sea. But Jesse had a plan. Quickly, Jessie, Nadine, and Elvis hopped into Glenn's powerboat, the Little Dipper. Glenn had only shown Jessie how to drive the boat once. "Are you sure you know how to drive this thing?" Nadine asked, a bit skeptical. "I guess we'll find out, won't we?" Jessie yelled back over the roaring engine. The three of them motored out to the center of the cove to find Willy. Chapter 10. Going Home. Jessie, Nadine, and Elvis could see Luna and Little Spot circling the cove, but Willy was nowhere to be found. Jessie cut the engine. Everyone watched tensely, sensing that the orcas were edgy and unpredictable. Then Jessie called to Willy. It was time to get them back to their ocean home. On Jessie's familiar signal, Willy breached the water and came crashing down on the net. "Way to go!" Willy, Luna, and Little Spot quickly escaped through the crushed netting. Jessie, Nadine, and Elvis followed them out of the cove in the Little Dipper. Their work wasn't complete until Willy, Luna, and Little Spot were safely out past the oil spill. Just then, the sound of a terrible explosion aboard the Dakar echoed across the water. Fire began to spread across the floating oil. Willy, Luna, and Little Spot swam strongly through the water toward the open ocean. Suddenly, the world around them was glowing orange and red. Willy nudged Luna and Little Spot deeper, diving beneath the burning oil above. On the surface, the Little Dipper was cut off by the fire. Jessie turned sharply to avoid the flames, straight into a large rock sticking up out of the water. From aboard the Natsilani, Glenn, Annie, and Randolph had seen the Little Dipper disappear behind the flames. Immediately, Randolph radioed a helicopter to rescue Jessie, Nadine, and Elvis.
"Mayday! Mayday!"
Minutes later, the pilot picked up Nadine and Elvis. But at the last second, Jessie had fallen from the harness and plunged back into the sea. The flames were quickly closing in on him. Underwater, Jessie tried desperately to untangle himself from his clothes and reach the surface. The world seemed to swirl around him, disorienting him. He couldn't tell which direction was up. Just as the last bubbles of air escaped his lips, he heard a familiar sound. Someone was calling to him. It was Willy! Jessie rode Willy to safety, just like the Indian boy Natsilane.
Hey-o, hey-o, hey.
Jessie, Annie, and Glenn looked down at Willy and thanked him for his heroic effort. Jesse knew it was time for Willy to rejoin J-Pod, to be with his family. Willy lolled in the water by the side of the Natsilani, but would not leave. Randolph told Jesse that Willy wouldn't leave until Jesse gave him the familiar signal one last time. Jesse watched quietly as Willy submerged for a final time. The Coastal Marine Patrol dropped Elvis and Nadine off on the Natsilani. Jesse greeted them both with big hugs. "Where's the fish?" Elvis asked, looking up at Jesse. "They've gone back to be with their mother," Jesse replied quietly. "How do you know?" Elvis asked. Jesse smiled and said, "I just know." Watching the two brothers talk, Annie and Glenn knew that everything was going to work out just fine. Who is Willy's former caretaker at the Sea Aquarium? Sorry, try again. That's it. Can you find where this piece belongs? Click on Missing Pieces to find out how to earn them. Way to go! What do Elvis and Jesse see from the ferry? That's it. Way to go! What does Jesse drop into the water at the dock? Close. Try again. That's it. You did it! What prevents Randolph from taking Jesse, Elvis, and Nadine out whale watching? Congratulations! That's right! What do Jesse and Nadine do after the orcas head back out to sea? Way to go! Congratulations! Who performs the first quick examination on Luna? Try another one. You did it! Congratulations! What does Jesse offer Willy to lure him away from Luna? That's it! That's it! Who does Randolph teach to make Mother Nature's medicine? Try another one. Try another one. You did it! That's right! Where does Elvis overhear Milner's plan? Close. Try again. That's it! That's it! Who radios for a helicopter to save Elvis, Nadine, and Jesse? Try another one. Close. Try again. That's right. Way to go! Willy introduces Little Spot to Jesse. The Happy Family. Jesse and Nadine at Rubbing Rocks Beach. Clamshell Castle. Click the clams, match the trash, and clear the courtyard. Clamshell Castle. Click the clams, match the trash, and clear the courtyard. Willy is looking for Rubbing Rocks Beach so he can tickle his tummy. Guide him there with fish he finds yummy. Moms and pods. Beauty, brains, brawn. What a perfect way to describe a killer whale. Because of these qualities, orcas have become one of the most beloved and respected animals on Earth. Killer whales are mammals, not fish. Like other whales and porpoises, they breathe air through a small blowhole in the top of their head. Orcas can stay underwater for as long as 20 minutes. Usually, they spend no more than 5 minutes below the surface. Killer whales stay with their mother and siblings for many years. Together, They swim with related families called pods. There are two types of pods, resident and transient. Resident pods are large. Some consist of 20 or more whales. They tend to hunt and play in one area, rarely intruding on the territory of neighboring pods. Transient pods are smaller and are known to travel long distances. Some transient whales even travel alone or briefly visit other pods. Even more unusual are superpods. Scientists have observed special orca hangouts that briefly attract many pods or hundreds of whales at once. Predators and prey. Killer whales have no natural predators. They are threatened only by human curiosity and carelessness. Captive orcas usually live half as long as wild orcas. Theme park aquariums cannot recreate a killer whale's natural environment, so many become weak or ill. Killer whales mostly eat fish and porpoises. They have also been known to eat seals, sharks, squid, birds, even other whales. No report exists of wild orcas attacking humans. Perhaps orcas got their killer nickname from fishermen who didn't like competing with such swift, powerful hunters. An adult orca eats over 100 pounds of food per day. Thankfully, it appears that killer whales are in no danger of extinction. Hunters find much greater value in larger species. Maybe orcas will convince us that all whales are worth saving. Myths and legends. Killer whales were once feared and hated. Fishermen and whale hunters told terrible tales of vicious sea devils that stole their catch. And whose territory was it anyway? Well before that, killer whales were cherished and admired by many Native Americans. Several Alaskan and Pacific Northwestern Indians created legendary orca tales. The Tlingit tribe told the story of Gonda Quadate, a magical orca chief. Simply seeing him meant good luck. The Chumash Indians of California created art and crafts featuring smiling orcas. While the Chumash competed with killer whales for food, they respected, not hated, the creatures. Wild orcas have never attacked humans, historical records show. Some orcas have even played alongside swimmers and scuba divers, but mostly they stay away from people. Keiko's new home. Free Willy started an orca whale named Keiko. Keiko needs to be moved from his tank in Mexico City, which is too small, to a bigger home in a cooler climate. After audiences saw Free Willy, thousands of people wrote and asked how they could help Keiko. So all of the people who made the movie joined with an environmental group to start the Keiko Foundation. The Keiko Foundation has raised millions of dollars from Keiko's friends to build a new home for him and help pay for needed medical and nutritional attention. Soon Keiko will be moved to his new huge saltwater tank in Oregon, where experts expect that he will make a full recovery and become as strong and healthy as he can be. Marine biologists believe that if Keiko seems able to adapt to such a big change, he may be returned to the ocean. The first time ever a captive orca will be returned to the wild. If you want to be involved, just ask your mom or dad to call 1-800-4-WHALES, and you can help save Keiko too. Below each buoy is an undersea world of hidden objects. Some of it is garbage, some of it is gold, some of it should be left for the ocean to hold. Home is where the shells are. They are beautiful to look at, but no one treasures these hard, hollow objects more than the little animals that live in them. Ever seen a shark shovel sand? How about a flounder fly a kite? These beach toys are better off onshore. Ahoy, matey! It looks like some old pirate buried his booty, but ended up losing his loot. You won't need a tricky map to find this treasure. Yuck! Some things should definitely not be in the ocean. Clean water means safe water for fish, birds, whales, and humans. These are very common at the beach, where many animals can become tangled in them. Always break six-pack rings before you throw them in the trash. Lunch on the beach is fun, but leftover plastic bags can harm animals on the sand and in the water. Few people realize that bleach bottles, even dry empty ones, are toxic. They should be taken to special recycling centers. Motor oil is very toxic, whether it is fresh or used. Always take oil containers to special recycling centers. Rubber balloons should always be thrown into the trash. If left in the street, they can be swept to the ocean where they become a choking hazard to wildlife. Fishing line, if abandoned in the water, can create a tangled mess for unwitting sea creatures, including birds, seals, and sea lions.
Friday, July 21st, 9 a.m. We watch from afar as J-Pod spends the morning feeding. After a short rest, the older males of the pod begin breaching, breaking the calm, sun-soaked ocean surface and crashing down, sending large waves across the water toward the Natsilane. It's a spectacular sight. Thursday, July 27th, 4 p.m. Today we made good recordings, and now we are sure Willy has rejoined his family. He has two younger siblings who stay close to their mother, Catspaw. Willy's sister is named Luna for the crescent-shaped marking on her dorsal. His brother is named Little Spot for the white patches above his eyes. Tuesday, August 1st, 7 a.m. J-Pod has moved within a mile of San Juan Harbor. They return regularly to Rubbing Rocks Beach to rub their bodies on the smooth rocks found on the ocean floor there. Willy looks good. He has gained some weight, but his dorsal remains bent from his time spent in captivity. Tuesday, August 15th, 7:30 a.m. J-Pod has moved north of San Juan Harbor, and we continue to track their progress in the area. A heavy fog shrouds the islands, and we make way cautiously with our radar. Just after 8 a.m., J-Pod dives and moves off. We give up and head back to the harbor to wait for another day. Saturday, August 19th, 12 noon. Willy and Little Spot entertain us with playful antics. Willy surfaces and slaps his fluke, then Little Spot does the same. The game continues, with Little Spot mirroring everything Willy does. We sit on deck and watch, eating our lunch and laughing as the show continues.